Pesachim, Perek Chet, Mishna Chet. We already started doing this about two Mishnahs ago, but we're going to go more in details now. Onen, a person whose family member passed away on the 14th of Nisan, we said Tovel, so he goes to the mikveh on the day of the passing away of the close family member.
He goes to the mikveh first, or he didn't know the person passed?
He did, yeah. But since at night he's not going to be an onen anymore, of course if he went to the cemetery he's in trouble, or he touched the dead body he's in trouble. He needs to get sprinkled. Yeah. But over here he didn't go to the cemetery. Yeah, he's just, there's a rule that an onen is not allowed to eat the Pesach sacrifice. But an onen is until sunset. So it means somebody can do the Pesach sacrifice for him, and then he can eat the Pesach sacrifice at night. So he says, Tovel, he goes to the mikveh, ואוכל את פסחו לערב, and he's allowed to eat the Pesach sacrifice in the evening. כבר ביארנו במשנה ו', like we already explained in the 6th Mishnah, שמת לו אחד מן הקרובים שהוא חייב להתאבל עליהם, anybody that is a close family member that he needs to be a mourning for them and passed away, כל יום המיתה נקרא אונן מן התורה. The entire day is considered to be an onen from the Torah. אבל בלילה שלאחריו אינו אונן אלא מדברי סופרים. But at night he's also an onen, but only from the rabbis, not from the Torah. דבר זה למדים, how do we know this? ממה שנאמר בפרשת מיתתם של נדב ואביהו. We know this from the passing away of Nadav and Avihu. What do we know? So it says, וידבר אהרון אל משה. So Aaron says to Moshe, הן היום הקריבו את חטאתם ואת עולתם לפני השם, ותקרנו אותי כאלה. So it says, today they sacrificed their sacrifice, and you're going to call me this what? An onen? ואכלתי חטאת היום, and I ate sin offering today, היטב בעיני השם, is it good in the eyes of God? So in other words, from these words, ואכלתי חטאת היום, on the day, ומכאן שהיום אסור לאכול באכילת קדשים ובלילה מותר. So from here we learn that during the day you're not allowed to eat sacrifices, but at night you're already allowed to.
But how we learn in the day after from the Rabbanan?
Because it's only the day after he was rebuking him. Why did you eat? You remember Aaron came to Moshe and he says, "Why did you?" So and Moshe came to Aaron. He says, "How dare you eat when it was on time?" The whole conversation. Yeah. אבל חכמים גזרו שלא יאכל ענן בקדשים אפילו בלילה. But the rabbis came and says, look, if you didn't eat in day, don't eat at night also. במה הדברים אמורים? Says, what are we talking about? בשאר קדשים. They talked about in other sacrifices. אבל בקורבן הפסח לא גזרו. In other words, the decree was only on other sacrifices, it wasn't on the Korban Pesach. Why? What makes Korban Pesach different than any other sacrifices? Why did you single it out? So the Rabbanim tell you, I'll tell you why we single Korban Pesach out. שהועיל ומניעת אכילתו עונשו בכרת. Every other sacrifice, if you don't eat the sacrifice in its allotted time, you don't get the punishment of karet. But the Pesach sacrifice, you do get the punishment of karet on the Pesach sacrifice. שנאמר, because when it comes to the Pesach sacrifice, it says, והאיש אשר הוא טהור, a man that is pure, ובדרך לא היה, and if the person was pure and he wasn't far away, וחדל לעשות הפסח, and he didn't do the Pesach sacrifice, ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מהמאה, that soul is going to get cut off from the Jewish nation. לפיכך לא העמידו החכמים את דבריהם לגבי מצוות פסח. Therefore the sages made a decree against all other sacrifices because there's no penalty of karet. Pesach, there's a penalty of karet, says you better do it. Very severe. זה ששנינו כאן, this is what we said, אונן טובל ואוכל את פסחו לערב בליל הפסח. This is what we said over here, that an onen goes to the mikveh and eats his sacrifice at night, אבל לא בקודשים, like what we said, he's not allowed to do it when it comes to other sacrifices. בשאר קודשים אסור לאונן לאכול אפילו לערב. In other sacrifices, even though it's only the Rabbanan, he's not allowed to eat the other sacrifices in the evening. שכן אכילת שאר קודשים אינה אלא מצוות עשה, because that's only a positive commandment, there's no carrot for it. שנאמר, ואכלתם אותם אשר כופר בהם. It says you have to eat your sacrifice, the one that you got atoned in.
Korban is not also mitzvah taseh?
It's mitzvah עשה, but it's both. mitzvah עשה and carrot. Pesach is both.
It doesn't have a carrot on them.
The kodashim, the sacrifices don't have a carrot. הילקח גזרו חכמים, therefore the sages made a decree, שאף אונן מדבריהם אסור באכילת קודשים. That an onen, even from the rabbi, is not allowed to eat the kodshim. ומה שאמרו אונן טובל, and the fact, when they did say that an onen goes to the mikveh, שצריך לטבול לפני אכילת פסחו, that he needs to go to the mikveh before eating his Pesach sacrifice, תקנת חכמים היא באונן לכל אכילת קודשים. This is a decree for an onen to any sacrifices. כמו ששנינו במסכת חגיגה, like we explain in מסכת חגיגה, האונן הוא מחוסר כיפורים, האונן הוא מחוסר כיפורים, which means didn't get to its time. The only reason he's still an onen, nothing to do with him. In other words, he's waiting for what? He's waiting for sunset. That's what he is. He's waiting for, once sunset kicks in, he's not an onen anymore. It says, nevertheless, צריכים טבילה. Let him go to the mikveh also. Even though maybe mikveh is not necessary over here. צריכים טבילה לקודש, כדי לאכול בקודשים, to prepare him to eat the sacrifice. Because he was in a state, even though he didn't touch a dead body or anything, he was in a state of אנינות. הטעמו, and the reason, לפי שעד עכשיו היו אסורים באכילת קודשים. So the rule is like this. If you were forbidding from eating sacrifices, and you want to eat sacrifices, for any reason, I don't care why you were forbidden, even though you were not impure, it was just an onen, right? Still we will make you go to the mikveh. That's the idea. והרמב"ם כותב הטעם באונן, the Rambam gives a different reason, וטובל ואחר כך אוכל, it says first of all he needs to go to the mikveh and then only eats, כדי שיפרוש מענינותו ולא יסיח דעתו מאכילת פסחו. It says it's a psychological thing. I want you to do the mitzvah the right way. If you're going to go straight away from an onen to eat the Pesach sacrifice, what kind of Pesach sacrifice it is? You're not going to really. Like this, there's going to be a custom, a transition period. You're going to go from one state of mind to another state of mind. So we want you not to be an onen at the time of the eating of the Pesach. We want you to do something so that your mindset is going to be different.
I have a question. Onen is somebody that he knows that somebody died, and before they didn't bury him yet.
Mm-hmm.
Once they bury him, he's not onen anymore.
He's onen until night.
Until night.
He's still onen.
A guy like this cannot, let's say, hear during the day, and he didn't put his filling yet. He can't put filling, and then he waited. The next day also cannot put filling.
No, next day is already at night.
If he's onen from the Rabbanan, he still cannot.
Yeah, but it's only at night, the onen the Rabbanan.
Huh?
It's only for the night, period.
Oh, for
the night.
Not night in the day.
Yeah, it's only for the night.
Okay. No.
Okay.
So,
And here comes another question. What happens if somebody's, I don't know, let's say father is in Be'er Sheva, and you're in Tel Aviv, and there's a messenger coming from you, from Be'er Sheva to Tel Aviv, and I tell you should know that your father passed away this morning, that somebody's father passed away this morning. This is called Shmu'ah. And there are rules for it. We're not going to get into the rules, we're going to learn when we get to the learn. The question is, did the person died in the last 30 days? So even if you heard it 5 days later, there's going to be different rules than if he died 2 years ago. Yeah, there's all kind of rules. But this is what we're going to deal with it. So it's like this. Hashomea al meto. Somebody who heard that a close family member that he needs to be an onen for, that he needs to mourn for. מי ששמע שמת לא מת, somebody heard that somebody passed away in the family, שהוא חייב להתאבל עליו, the person that he has to mourn over, והמלקט לו עצמות, and the one who collects bones. Let me explain what's collect bones. Today we don't do it. We don't do it today. I don't know. what was exactly? I'm not quite sure what the custom, why the custom was. But let me explain. In the old time, the way they used to do it, they used to bury most people twice, not just once. The burial used to be twice, not like today. You bury a person once and that's it. The way you used to do it, most times you will go into caves, and you will make a hole inside the cave wall, and you will put the guy inside, and you will wait until he will become bones, whatever how many years, and then after a couple of years, when it's only bones left, you will take him out and you will bury him. So the day you take him out, this is called the day of the Melaket Atzamot. Yeah, this is called the day of collecting bones. So even though you didn't collect the bones, you didn't touch the thing, but it's the day that somebody's father was collected and put into the grave. His brother that lived with him in Beersheba did it, not you. You're in Yerushalayim. Yeah. But that day, that's right. That day, because he's reburied, it's similar to Onen, kind of.
That's what he wants to
say. והמלקט לו עצמות, somebody who collect bones, או מי שלקטו לו עצמות אביו ואימו כדי לקבור אותם בקבר קבוע, somebody who collected the bones of his mother or father in order to bury them in the permanent grave, not in the grave for just, like I said, it was a double period, שכן נוהגים היו לקבור מתיהם בקבורת ארעי, the custom was to bury them once temporarily, ולאחר זמן היו מלקטים עצמותיהם וקוברים אותם בקבר של קבע. And then after a while, they will take out the bones and they will rebury them permanently. So what do we do about these guys? It's almost like an onen. The rule is like an onen. So it says, tovel ואוכל בקודשים. It says, over here he's allowed to go to the mikveh and eat even what? Even holies. Yeah, before we said there's a gzeira. There's a decree on the holies. But when there's a decree, only real onen. Over here it's like secondary onen. It's not as strong as an onen. So these guys, you're allowed to eat sacrifices. אף בשאר הקודשים, also in other sacrifices, לערב, in the evening. לפי שאפילו ביום השמוע עצמו, because even in the day of the hearing itself, וכן ביחס ליקוט עצמות, אינו אונן אלא מדרבנן, because the onen is only from the rabbis. Even the day is only from the rabbis. ואילו בלילה שלאחר אותו יום, אין עליו תורת עניות כלל. And we don't do two rabbis. You already learned the things. So if your rabbi is in the day, and then there's the rabbis for the night, we don't consider it. Another interesting part. What happened? A convert, somebody wanted to convert in the Jewish nation, converts on the 14th of Nisan. On the 14th of Nisan he converts. What do we do with him? Let's see. גר שנתקייר בערב פסח. A ger that converted on the 14th of Nisan. That's the day he went to the mikveh. כלומר, שמל means he circumcised, וטבל לשם גרות, and he dipped himself into the mikveh ב-14 בניסן. In the 14th of Nisan. It's a very interesting case, by the way. You're not going to, it's usually the opposite, but we're going to see soon why. בית שמאי אומרים, the house of Shammai are going to be lenient over here. Usually the house of Shammai are stringent. And we're going to have to figure out, why is the house of Shammai lenient? Beit Shammai Omrim, the house of Shammai says, Tovel, well, what's the problem? Go to the mikveh, ואוכל את פסחו לערב, and you can eat the Pesach sacrifice with everybody else. I don't understand what your problem is. What is your problem? כלומר, שטובל פעם נוספת, מדברי סופרים, that he goes, in other words, he has to go one more time to the mikveh. Even the truth is he doesn't. We're going to make him go because from the rabbis we're going to make him go. It's not from the Torah. לאכילת קודשים, he's going to dip himself for eating holy things, sacrifices, ואוכל בערב מקורבן הפסח שנמנה עליו. And in the evening he can eat his Pesach sacrifice. It's normal. What's the problem? ובית הלל אומרים, no. בית הלל אומרים, that's not the way it's going to work. הפורש מן העורלה, it says somebody who stops being a girl, stops being an arel, goes away from his orla, goes away from his impurity. Yeah, somebody goes away from his impurity, which means he take away the orla on that day, Anyone who takes away is... No, in that time they used to do it in the same day. Yeah? כפורש מן הקבר. It says, we're going to consider him like he touched somebody, like a dead person. In other words, we have to sprinkle on him 7 days afterwards. He's tameh for 7 days. He's tameh for 7 days. So he has to go in the first day or in the third day, you remember, the first or fourth day, like everybody else, and then he can become pure. Yeah? Where does he get? What does Beit Shammai get this ruling from? Let's see. So it says, גר הפורש מעולתו, הרי הוא כמי שנוגע באמת. So they didn't touch a dead body. What do you want from him? He says, no, I'm going to consider it. I'm going to be stringent. Beit Hillel. Imagine over here, Beit Hillel says it. I'm going to be stringent. Usually it's Beit Shammai is the stringent one. I'm going to invent for him extra stringency. He says, what's the extra stringency? That he's going to be like he touched a dead body. Why? What's the problem? Klomar. Because you have to remember, the second before the guy converted, if he touched a dead body, it's not a problem. He's not a Jew. He doesn't become impure. Only Jews become impure by touching a dead body. So what are you afraid of, Hillel? What's your problem? כלומר שהוא טמא 7 ימים, which means that he is impure for 7 days, וטעון הזעת ממי עפר הפרה ביום השלישי וביום השביעי. And he needs to bring the ashes of the red heifer in the 3rd and the 7th day. שלאחר מילתו, וטבילתו לגרות. After, he needs to wait 7 days after to become completely pure. הילקח אסור לו לאכול מן הפסח לערב. Therefore, he's not allowed to eat from the Pesach sacrifice for that evening. Now we need to figure out what's wrong with you? All of you decide to become more holy than holy? The guy got nothing to do with dead person, you make him touch a dead person, what happened? בגמרא מבואר שלא נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל אלא בערל גוי. We're talking about somebody who's an Arel non-Jew, a convert like we're thinking, שמל בערב פסח, that he circumcised in ערב פסח. Still the same problem. That what? What is Beit Hillel worried about? So now listen to this. Beit Hillel gozrim, Beit Hillel said, we're going to make a decree, shema itama lamet b'shana haba. You know what I'm afraid for? Next year, the day before Pesach, you know what this guy is going to go? He's going to go to a funeral, to the day before Pesach, or he's going to bury his, I don't know, somebody. He's going to touch a dead body the day before Pesach, בערב Pesach, ויאמר, and he's going to say, you know, כשם שאשתקד טבלתי ואכלתי לערב מקורבן פסח. It says last year, what did they do? Even this year, yeah? The year, for example, of his circumcision, that year, the previous day, he could have touched dead body. Right? The previous day. And now we let him go to the mikveh and eat holies in the evening. He's going to think that next year, he'll be allowed to do the same thing. Next year is going to come around.
What the case between the Orla and the Met, the Tumat Met?
Oh, so he for example, let's take, he's converting today with the 14th of Nisan. Yes, today in the morning, yeah, he touched a dead body.
Oh,
today,
and
now I can eat. So he's going to think next year, if it's going to happen again, I can eat again.
He didn't understand that he was a goy, so he wasn't.
Okay, so how come Beit Shammai is not worried about it? Beit Shammai should be stringent. So we have the famous story. Do you remember the goy that comes to Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel? That's right. There was a famous story that comes. The convert comes to Beit Shammai and he wants to he tells Beit Shammai, I want to convert to the Jewish religion, but I'm not a learned, a scholarly guy. I just want to quickly, run me through. Tell me the whole Torah in the time I'm standing on one leg. Yeah? Tell me the Torah. So Beit Shammai says, excuse me, get away from me. If you're not willing to learn 15 years in yeshiva, I'm not putting you here. Go learn first of all 15 years, come back, we'll talk to you. Yeah? Beit Hillel says, and Beit Hillel says, he converted him, he says, as long as you don't do to others what you don't like to do to yourself. Right? Beit Hillel. So here comes the problem. Since Beit Hillel accepts everyone, even just a small thing, he's afraid that these guys next year, they're not going to know the laws. Since these guys are not going to know the laws,
then you can.
You can't, so you'll have to be stringent. According to Beit Hillel, I have to make sure that things are not going to happen to the Jewish tradition because of that. Yeah. Beit Shammai says the guy already knows the law. If I converted him, Beit Shammai says he knows the law for sure. I'm not worried that by next year he's not going to know the law. He went to yeshiva for 10 years. See how it comes? Yeah. Because it's actually because
you're lenient, now you have to be stringent.
That's right. Very interesting ideas over here, right? כך גם השנה אתבול ויאכל מפסרי. So Beit Hillel says, so the guy says, also I can go to the mikveh this year and eat from my Pesach sacrifice. ולא ידע שבשנה שעברה היה גוי עד ל-14 בניסן. He wasn't aware that last year he was a non-Jew until the 14th of Nisan. ואף אם נטמא למת לפני שנתגייר, אין גוי מקבל טומאה. And even though he became impure, there's no impurity to non-Jews. אבל עכשיו ישראל הוא, but now he's a Jew, והוא מקבל טומאה, and he receives the impurity, ואינו ניתר אלא אחרי 7 ימים. He only become pure after 7 days. לפיכך אמרו בית הלל שגם השנה טעון הזו השלישית. Therefore בית הלל, since they're not stringent in who they're accepting anybody who's not going to go to yeshiva, so they say, you have to make sure that he's going to remember. How are we going to make sure he's going to remember? We're going to make him do things he doesn't need to do just in case it's going to happen next year. ובית שנאי אינם גוזרים, and the house of Shammai did not make the decree, משום טומאת המת בשנה הבאה. אבל הרי לישראל, somebody who didn't circumcise himself. You remember, somebody who didn't circumcise himself is not allowed to eat the Pesach sacrifice. He's a Jew, he just didn't circumcise. So what happened if an Arel Israel did it on the 14th of Nisan? He did circumcision on the 14th of Nisan. אבל הראל ישראל, כגון שמתו, for example, how can you get an הראל ישראל? So in that time, it can happen in many circumstances. Even by religious people, it can happen at that time. How? Because the rule says if your brothers were circumcised and they died because of the circumcision when you were young, you don't do the third brother. You only do the first two, and the third one, because it's dangerous, you don't do. Sakanat nefashot. If the first two passed away. Yeah, so this is an example. This guy says, I don't know, he grew up and he says, situation child, the doctor told him it was only a problem because of their youth and now you're okay, and he decided to do the circumcision, it's allowed. אבל הראל ישראל, but a circumcised Jew, כגון שמתו אחיו מחמת מילה ונמנעו מלמולו. For example, the brothers passed away because of circumcision, and the case was, you probably know the case. There's a case, even today, of a lot of, it runs in the family, that the blood doesn't clot. What's the case? What is it called in the...
many different kinds.
Hemophilia, yeah, that's the case. Usually they will circumcise and it will continue to bleed until the baby died. Yeah. Yeah, today they have the case also. Yeah, today they have medicine for it. Yeah, in the old time, not necessarily. Yeah. ונמנעו מלמולו, שמכל מקום אסור בקורבן פסח. So it says, nevertheless, you're not circumcised, you're not allowed to eat a Pesach sacrifice. שנאמר, וכל הרי לא יאכל בו. It says, and every circumcised is not eating it. אם הוא בא למול בערב פסח, but if he comes to circumcise himself in ערב פסח, אף לדעת בית הלל טובל ואוכל פסחו לערב. Even according to the house of Hillel, he's allowed to go because you're not afraid that he doesn't know the rules. He knows the rules, he's a Jew. Yeah, he's a Jew, he knows the rules.